The Wonderful 101 appears to have lots of folks confused, and I can't say I blame them. Despite the fact that we've known about it for well over a year, the message behind the game is still a little gray, and people have been left with a lot of questions. Is it a brawler? Is it like Beautiful Joe? Does it play like Pikmin? As Platinum Games and Nintendo have opted to release a demo of the game this week, I figured I would jump in, given my enthusiasm for the release, and try to explain exactly what it is and how good it is. Consider this a sort of preview/demo review thing. When you start the story portion of the demo, the game doesn't give you much to go on. They drop you right down into the fray, and it can be a little confusing. Plenty of action on the screen is covered up by plenty of heads-up display items, which means first-time players should expect to feel overwhelmed. And even I, despite having played the game extensively back at E3, found myself feeling lost and confused. Your first instinct will be to button mash, as it appears to be marginally effective, but soon enough the game explains its primary combat mechanic to you: drawing weapons. There are 3 weapons to create in the demo, and you have 2 ways to draw them out. You can either use the touchscreen on the Wii U Gamepad to form the shapes, or you can use the right thumbstick. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, but when push comes to shove, the thumbstick appears to be the better option. It's exceptionally smooth and much easier to use than you might think. Unfortunately, using the touchscreen creates some unforeseen issues, namely bumping into the edge of the gamepad screen before you finish drawing a longer weapon, so it falls behind the more traditional method of control. Both would be more than suitable for most players, however. That's not to say the drawing mechanic is entirely accessible though. Certain things about it require some getting used to, especially trying to surround objects with circles, and you'll probably find it frustrating the first few times before you get the hang of it. Adding to that initial inaccessibility is a slightly poor camera. Oftentimes you'll be playing the game and it haphazardly zooms in way too far, preventing you from seeing what's ahead. The game doesn't tell you how to fix this, and only after scouring the control menus did I learn that tapping R or L will zoom the camera in or out. Once you get the hang of making weapons, you get to learn how to smash stuff, which is really where the fun lies in Wonderful 101. In classic Platinum Games fashion, animations are smooth, detailed, and vibrant, sound effects are top-notch, and that staple pause when hitting an enemy thing is in full swing. The whole combat experience feels expertly polished. Adding to that foundation is a bit of a loose rock-paper-scissors mechanic with the different weapon types. Swords are great for hitting many smaller enemies, the fist is great for facing off against one bigger enemy, the gun works against ranged or flying enemies, and the whip, which isn't available in the demo, is said to be used against armored enemies quite effectively. This balance is the first level of depth to the game's combat. The second level is the ability to draw a weapon and then set your computer-controlled allies to helmet. You can make up to 4 AI-controlled weapons as well as having one for yourself, so battles with a plethora of foes become vaguely strategic and that much more satisfying for it. It's not entirely clear if the full game will make these satisfying strategic elements a necessity, but if it does, we're in for quite the treat. The thing a lot of folks are probably curious about is the game's use of the Wii U Gamepad, and after playing the game, I can't say it's entirely clear whether or not Platinum will create an experience that couldn't be replicated without Nintendo's new controller. The only showcase of the second screen in the demo was when you bring your characters into a shed-like building, and the game goes from being on the top screen to being on the bottom screen. While this is happening, the top screen now shows numbers stuck to the top of the building you're now inhabiting, and the bottom screen shows a third-person view of your characters inside the building. The goal of this? To turn levers inside the building to make the numbers on top of the building match a code from the inside of the building. To say that this mechanic was entirely perfunctory would be disingenuous. Looking back and forth between 2 screens did manage to make a simple puzzle a bit more fun, but I also wouldn't qualify it as unmanageable without a second screen just yet. It's a sign that maybe Platinum will do something deeper with the concept later on in the game, but we can't be sure. Despite a few misgivings, most of which are remedied with a second playthrough, the Wonderful 101 appears to have shaped up fantastically. Combat is extremely satisfying, there's depth for those who want it, and an easy difficulty for those who don't, and as long as there's enough content in the final package, it's looking like a must-purchase for action fans. Those without much interest in high-octane bursts of color probably still won't be swayed by Wonderful 101, but if you had an affinity for the gameplay of something like Bayonetta and the style of something like Beautiful Joe, I dare say this could end up being one worth buying a system for. We'll have to wait to find out for certain, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless.
scrap.